Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. We're recording this episode the day after the Super Bowl. And because we're in advertising, everybody pays special attention to the ads. There's a tradition here at Callis to get together the next morning and talk about them. So here we are. We're going to talk about which ones stood out, which ones were the best liked, the funniest, the most effective, and in all of them, we think and talk about the why, because the why is the strategy behind them. But before we get into the ads, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate both the 49ers and the Chiefs on an awesome game. And I want to take just a moment to celebrate the victory by our beloved Kansas City Chiefs. How about those
Chiefs?
That was weak, but we'll go with it. And Kyle, I don't think I heard you, but that's okay. I know you're a Ravens fan. You know, the Chiefs embody everything we think about when we talk about rural America. The hard work that goes into being successful, grit, tenacity, and endurance, fighting through adversity, believing in yourself and your teammates, never giving up, strong leadership, and family. Otherwise, out here, it's known as Chiefs Kingdom. The Chiefs are a testament to all of this, and we're proud that they are right here in rural America. So today, we've got 6 members from our ad agency team online with us to discuss their ad picks. And it's always interesting because there's always one or two that really stands out that everybody likes, and the others are, probably appealing to the target audience that's watching. Here's a couple of statistics before we get started, though. Last year, over 110 million people watched the Super Bowl, but with the Taylor Swift effect, estimators are speculating that the audience was even higher this year. Throughout America, over 40% of the population was excited about the upcoming game, either because of the game itself, the ads, the halftime show, or the Puppy Bowl. There were over 50 advertisers who paid in the neighborhood of $7 million for a 30-second spot, and 2/3 of them had celebrities in them, which means the production costs had to be huge as well. Besides being a great game, Vegas entertained like no other city can, and the shots of the Sphere were truly amazing. All in all, it was one for the ages. So with that, let me introduce our panel of Callis associates today: Megan Hartman, Dana Kelchner, Kyle Meek, Lindsey Barnes, Seth Brunkhorst, and Andrew Stallcap. Welcome to Outdrive, all of you. Megan, let's start with you. What were your impressions of the game, Las Vegas, anything about the game, and then specifically the ads?
Well, it was an amazing game, first of all. It's a little nerve-wracking in parts of it, but the Chiefs showed up like they always do, and it was amazing to watch and celebrate a big win in the last seconds. So it was pretty awesome. I think my favorite spot was the Uber Eats. I saw the teasers on social media, and I've always been a Friends fan. So it spoke to me having David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston, Jessica Aniston in that spot. So that was one of my favorites. There were a lot of good commercials, but that's the one that stood out to me. It spoke to me and did a great job.
Yeah, I think that was a popular one for a lot of people. Hey, Lindsey, how about you? What did you think?
I did love that one, the Uber Eats one. I also love the Dunkin' Donuts one a lot with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. That one was funny. And then J-Lo, because I think it also spun off of the 2023 commercial where J-Lo rolls up and Ben Affleck's working the drive-thru. If you remember that one. And he says, "You're embarrassing me." So it's kind of funny. She's at her job and he is embarrassing her.
Dana, I know you're a football fan. What'd you think of the game? What'd you think of the ads?
The game was a nail biter. I found I could not sit down in the second half. I had to be up and about and walking and just kind of peeking around the corner sometimes to make sure things are going to go our way. So it was a little stressful. And if you guys know my husband, he was right there with me, probably a little more animated than I was. But the commercials, the first thing I noticed, I'm always surprised by how many that I miss. I feel like I make a concerted effort to watch and to see the commercials. Like I was looking for the Uber Eats commercial, Megan, and I didn't ever see it. I had to look it up this morning because you had sent me the preview a week or so ago, and I was excited, but I missed it. But there were several that I liked. I liked the Dunkin' Donuts. A couple that stuck in mind is DoorDash. I thought they nailed it as far as their product and what they can do, and they capitalized on all the products that were available. They were being in the commercials and putting that as part of their spot. I also kind of like the Volkswagen commercial for its nostalgia. They went back in history. And then just to tie that in, we had a family text thread going with Mark, my husband, and his siblings, and his sister had a VW. And so as soon as she saw it, she piped into the text thread and said, "Oh gosh, guys, do you remember when I had that car?" So that was kind of fun to see that connection. And they were really pointing at their target audience for that too.
I was immediately engaged in that Volkswagen ad, but they, for some reason, I can't even really explain it, lost me about halfway through that. And I don't know whether, when it went from nostalgia to more of today and what they're doing. But I thought that was initially a very attention-getting ad. But then again, for me, it just lost me. But I never was a bug guy, so maybe that had something to do with it. Kyle, let's move on to you. And I'm going to come back to everybody and give you a chance to talk, maybe about another one or two spots. But right now we're focusing on the first one. Kyle, I know it had to be a little anticlimactic for you. I know you're a Ravens fan. Most days we see you in the office with a Ravens hat on. And of course, we respect that organization. What a great game that was a couple of weeks ago. So, you went into the game, kind of without a horse in the race. What's your impression of the game? Las Vegas in general, and then, your favorite commercial and why?
Yeah, I agree that it was a good game. It was close. It was back and forth towards the end, especially. Cool to always go to overtime, especially in the big games. But yeah, as you said, no horse in the race, no major rooting interest. But I'm always glad to see the Chiefs win, just for some of the family, that is a little older, who hasn't seen them win throughout all the years, and then finally gets to see, their period of greatness. So that's always cool. And you're kind of getting the dynasty kind of phase now with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. So that's cool, and also kind of makes you public enemy number one a little bit, but that comes with the territory of being that good. So I respect the team and the coach and the quarterback. But as far as commercials go, my favorite one was the Kawasaki Ridge commercial. And part of it's because it, really was going after our audience, who we talked to. So I looked at it from that perspective and thought it was kind of cool. But what really jumped out to me was the comedic aspect of it, pulling in the trend of mullets and the past of mullets, business in the front, party in the back, and tying that into a side-by-side, pulling in some star power with Steve Austin, who's been bald for forever, and giving him a mullet, giving all these other random creatures a mullet in a silly way, but also showing off really the product, showing off how fast it's going, giving you a speedometer shot, showing them loading up stuff in the back, driving through creeks, doing everything you can do in a side-by-side. So I thought it was a pretty cool way to show off the product, bringing star power, and then really pulling from a current trend that resonates with your audience. So I thought it had kind of several cool aspects to it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was a particularly effective ad as well. And so did you ever have a mullet?
No, I never had a mullet. Definitely had longer hair in my past, but never a true mullet.
Okay, well, me neither, but it appealed to me as well. And you and I are of different age generations, but maybe it's my wannabe an outdoor adventure guy, because it really appealed to me as well. You mentioned the overtime, and I read an interesting little factoid. I guess it's true because I saw it on the internet this morning, that said that the 49ers players really hadn't talked about the new rules for overtime. And so they weren't really nearly as prepared as the Chiefs. And it went on to say that Andy Reid and the Chiefs had been talking about the new rules ever since camp opened up and prepared for it. And it went on to say that the Chiefs were so prepared that if the 49ers had scored a touchdown in their drive and the Chiefs went down and scored a touchdown, they were going for two. Of course, we'll never know, whether that's the case or not, but I like, preparedness is so important, for most things in life, but I thought that was particularly insightful. Seth, how about you? What's your impressions of the game, and, what was your favorite ad and why?
That game to me summed up the entire season. It was a great game. My favorite saying for watching Chiefs games is you pay for the whole seat, but you're only going to use the edge. And I didn't pay for a Super Bowl ticket, but I still felt the same right on my couch. So yeah, pretty pumped. My favorite ad, I would say, there was multiple. The one that I probably enjoyed the most was the Dunk Kings one. And to me, like, the whole commercial was great, but I can't get rid of Tom Brady. He's good in all the ads. He was great. He beat the Chiefs so many times, and he just still, I'm sitting there watching Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Every time in between, here comes Tom Brady, and he was great. So that was probably my favorite one. I like the Paramount one, a lot of nostalgia, Creed, lots of fun stuff there. The CeraVe one was another good one with Michael Cera. So a bunch of good ones.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, a lot of people talking about the Dunkings commercial as maybe being the number one most effective and liked commercial. And I agree. I liked it as well. It got your attention right off the bat because a bunch of guys in orange jumpsuits, come into the recording studio. And you're right. Tom Brady, he always came across to me as very pin up, kind of button up kind of a guy. But I think he's really letting his hair down and showing his true personality. And, until Patrick Mahomes knocks him off the pedestal, he is the GOAT, right? And so his role in all these commercials really brings that star power to life. And of course, some people were suggesting that Matt Damon played that commercial so well that he was the star of the commercial, but it's really all of them together. And I love the J-Lo line at the end. Oh, you can stay, Tom. I thought that was boom. That was perfect. Hey, Andrew, what'd you think of the game, man?
I really enjoyed it. I was surrounded by a sea of red. Family was very excited to just be in the Super Bowl again. Everyone's spouting out stats, and you would assume that the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl for the last decade. And the way that they were talking about it, and to watch the energy change for those last few minutes, and everybody just kind of holding their breath. My wife was taking funny pictures where she's like, I think someone's praying right now. Just the way everybody was kind of hunched towards the TV, and our broadcast was a few seconds delay. So right before that final play, we start hearing fireworks go off in the neighborhood. It's like, I bet this is a good play, So it was kind of a fun night, fun ending. Definitely a lot of good energy in the state.
What about ads? What was your favorite ad? Or what ad did you think was most effective and why?
Well, so the ad that I thought was most effective, as well as one of the ones I enjoyed the most, was the Pluto TV couch potato commercials. And tongue in cheek, it's able to use a slang term like couch potato and kind of advertise that to its own audience, because you're kind of calling everybody, hey, you're a couch potato if you're going to use our service. And it's something that you can kind of say to your audience, and it gives them a chuckle, makes them connect, oh, well, I guess we kind of all are. And I think it just was really relevant in how they could attach to the, hundreds of millions of viewers. And so you have all these people watching, and currently there's a lot going on with the streaming wars. So a lot of streaming services are raising prices. People are, having to consolidate because of fees being high. That, well, I can only pick one or two services. And so for Pluto TV to kind of come in during that time and, use their slogan, stream now and pay never, and just kind of in that ad show, the variety of content that they have, and then kind of tying it back into us being a rural America marketing agency. The ad itself is taking place on a farm. You see farmers taking their job really seriously, but also playing into the joke a little bit as well. They're watching the TV as their product, their potatoes are growing, and being like, this is going to be a good yield. And it just kind of was, it touched a lot of notes. And I thought it was really funny personally, and also kind of from that marketing effectiveness perspective.
Yeah, that is an interesting perspective. And quite frankly, I hadn't looked at it that way. It wasn't an ad that really reached out and grabbed me, but I know that it did others as well. We talked about some of the other spots that ran last night in our preparatory session that we had earlier today. Let's go back around at least one more time and talk about another ad. And now you can talk about it for whatever reason. It was the worst ad, the silliest ad, the humorous ad, the ad that stood out the most. There's just all the categories are wide open now. Megan, let's go back to you and start with another ad that you want to talk about.
I still love the talking babies that E-Trade has brought back recently. I remember those from years ago, and they just, for whatever reason, always stick out to me. I think it was a few years ago they started bringing those back, and I was excited to see them. But just seeing little babies acting like adults is hilarious to me. The mayonnaise commercial, the Hellman's commercial, also stood out, although it was gag worthy to see her take a tablespoon of mayonnaise and eat it directly out of the jar. It was a fun, cute commercial.
I'm sure there are some people who eat mayonnaise out of a jar with a spoon, don't you think?
Absolutely. I have a friend that is a huge mayonnaise fiend, and it grosses me out. Small amounts for me.
Yeah, I thought the E-Trade commercial was effective as well. You know, who doesn't like babies, right? Babies and dogs. And so, you know, to see a couple of little babies out playing pickleball, you know, capitalizing on such a popular sport. And I love the line when they talked about schooling the adults. I thought that was pretty humorous. Lindsay, what other ads stood out to you?
I did like another Tom Brady ad. He was in several, I feel like. It was the Bet MGM one. It was the one with Vince Vaughn also. And it's like at the end, it's like Tom Brady's, you've won enough. Like Vince Vaughn, I think, makes the commercial, but he's just anybody that thought Tom Brady was cute. Oh, they can still bet. You're still in it. Like, just as long as it's not Tom Brady. I mean, I think Tom Brady's poking fun at himself more and more now. So I guess I like that of him. For an emotional one, I didn't think there were too many emotional ones, but the Jesus, he gets us. And I'm not really sure who it's for. I don't know, but the different images of people going through hard times were all like that. So, I mean, I liked that for an emotional one.
Yeah, I thought that one really was very powerful. And you're right. I don't think there was a lot of ads that really hit deep down emotion. You know, there were a handful, you know, and they certainly stand out, you know, because most of the commercials are trying, in my opinion, to entertain, you know, to be grabby and sticky and get your imagination going. But certainly those ones that, you know, hit way down low in the emotional track can be very effective and really stand out. And I agree. I thought the Jesus one did as well. And then, you know, Tom Brady, once again, I mean, using that star power to sell. It'd be interesting to see who else he signs on with from a sponsorship point of view, because that's probably his future.
Yeah. And I think he'll be really good at it. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I do too.
Maybe be like Peyton Manning.
Just like Peyton Manning. Yeah, nobody has mentioned, you know, any of the Bud Light ads yet, but I assume that's coming. So Dana, let's move on to you. What other one or two ads really stood out to you?
Sure, I'll do a little speed round, but I did like the Disney Plus one with that for its simplicity, where it flashed up in very simple the one-line movie lines that were very recognizable. So it wasn't a huge emotional, but it was just kind of a nice connection. But I thought the State Farm and BMW ads were funny because they're poking fun of how like Arnold Schwarzenegger says the word neighbor. And then Christopher Walken, everybody who was working with him on that spot were impersonating him. So I thought those were both funny. There was also two references to Flashdance in two different commercials. I think T-Mobile and I can't remember the other one, but that those were fun. And then I'm a big Suits fan right now. We watched that, and it was a show from 2010, 2011, but there were two commercials that there were Suits, their characters from that show in it. So they were in T-Mobile and then also the Elf Beauty. So I think that's smart to bring back, you know, take on a trending stars as well as big stars to make a connection. And then my last one that I was going to say is the Bass Pro commercial. I don't know that I've seen a Bass Pro commercial, or maybe I just haven't paid attention, but I thought that one was pretty relevant for, you know, being a Missouri company and the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl and capitalizing on that. So I like that one as well.
Yeah, I thought it was very effective for Bass Pro to be advertising. I mean, that's their audience for sure. And they did even reference that they were a Missouri company, which I thought was very, very poignant on their part. You know, it's sort of amazing that Anheuser-Busch wouldn't choose to do that in their commercials, but I'm not sure that they're making ad decisions in Missouri anymore. Nothing against them, but because they had several great ads. You mentioned the Agent State Farm commercial with Arnold. And so a question that pops up into my mind is, do you think it's more effective when the advertisers tease their ads ahead of the game than when they just come at you for the first time, which many of them do during the game? Because, State Farm teased, Agent State Farm for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 ahead of the game in the last couple of playoff games. And then, the NFL teased their spot that came out right after halftime. I don't know if you remember it, but they teased it for a couple of weeks before the game. Little kids laying in bed late at night watching a game. His dad comes in and says, "You got to get to sleep. It's late." And he looks up to a NFL poster on the wall and talks to it, and they talk back, and then he lays over and goes to sleep. And then it says, starts right after halftime at the Super Bowl. And so they teased it for a couple of weeks, and then that was the first spot. It was an NFL spot. And it was talking, very inspirational for young people. But, do you think it's more effective when they tease it ahead of time or when it comes at you as a surprise the first time? Dana, you were talking, so I'll throw it back to you.
I think it can work both ways, not to, waffle on it, but I think if it's done well, it can work either way. But the tease, I think, helps you look for an ad. Like my example with the Uber Eats, I was looking for that one and didn't see it. But then there's also that wow power of something you haven't seen before that really hits you if it's done well. So I know that's probably not a concrete answer, but I think it depends on how well they're done from either direction. I know Megan looks like she wants to pipe in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Go ahead, Megan.
I agree, Dana. I think Uber Eats did a good job of that. I had seen the teaser with the Beckhams first, and honestly wish I wouldn't have seen the full spot. I like it more when it is a true teaser as opposed to the full spot coming out. I know you can go and watch them online now. We didn't used to be able to do that, but I like to have a teaser and know what to look for, and wish I would have seen the spot live in the game. I was expecting it to be different, and it was the one I'd seen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But the Bud Light commercial with the genie and that playing, and then the camera panning to the genie in the stadium was great. I think that was a really good call on their end, actually having the genie with Post Malone at the game.
Yeah, that was very effective. And I don't know if you noticed it or not, but Post Malone was wearing what he wore when he sang America the Beautiful. And in the BMW commercial with Christopher Walken, that usher was wearing what he wore for the halftime show. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Just it's amazing the details that sometimes stand out to you, just to kind of tie it all together.
Absolutely.
Kyle, you got another ad or two that you'd want to highlight, talk about?
Sure. And I'll start with the CeraVe one. Also had some teaser aspects to it. And it's probably the only reason it jumped out to me as much as it did. It was comical and silly, but I know they had like a in-person and social campaign that was running probably for a month or two. I've saw things about it kind of building up to this hype where he's marking out things on bottles of CeraVe and drugstores. So then people are taking pictures of him and sharing online, like, what's he doing with all this? And kind of had like this fake controversy almost with him. And then it kind of leaked out that he was going to be part of this and kind of built that up over a couple months. So I think, as others said, if you tease it right, I think can really add to the impact of it. Because that one, I don't know if it would have even really probably jumped out to me without knowing all that had happened prior. Otherwise, I really like the Paramount one. Like Seth said, it had a lot of nostalgia, cultural references. It was quick. It was silly. And the chaos really did show all the different type of content that they have on the platform. So I think it did a good job of also communicating its message. BetMGM with Tom Brady kind of caught me as well, just because it's like, you can't get rid of Tom. You can't win anymore, Tom. So that was kind of fun and comical. But a couple others that maybe weren't super impactful commercials, but I thought were interesting was Snapchat. They kind of distanced themselves from being seen as a social platform, which I thought was interesting from a marketing standpoint, that they don't want to be seen as like a traditional social platform. They want to be seen as a messaging platform. So I thought that was interesting. And one last one was that the Copilot ad I thought was interesting as well, because we've seen AI ads for the last few years, probably geared towards businesses and large enterprise companies and those types of decision makers. But this one was really geared to general audiences and more anybody who works on a computer. So I thought that was kind of interesting, a shift in the industry too, where AI is not just going after the big businesses, enterprise decision makers, they're going after the end user too. So I thought that was kind of a cool angle change that kind of showcases where the industry's at with AI as well.
Yeah, those are great observations, and I'm not surprised with your marketing technology background that those would really stand out to you. Seth, you got another? Let's go. Lindsay, you've got a comment on that, being our social media expert.
Yeah, Megan and I were together for the Super Bowl, and we were noticing one of the commercials for AI, and it would just show what the cutoff leg, and it showed how AI is still messing up images, and you still need that graphic designer. Do you remember who it was, Megan?
I can't remember what the commercial was, but it was at the very beginning because we were both like, what is happening? Showing that you can't just trust AI to do your job for you. You still have to have that human element. So I think that resonated with both of us, and we understand what it was saying because this is what we live and breathe. But it was an interesting take on it. But no, I can't remember who it was for, but that piece did stand out.
Does anybody remember who it was? Because I remember the ad too, and it was kind of like, this is almost an anti-AI ad, but now I don't remember the brand.
I have to go back and look.
The mark of an ineffective commercial, when you cannot remember the brand that it's tied to.
Absolutely.
Seth, you have another ad or two that you really liked, or for whatever reason want to talk about?
Yeah, there's been a ton of good ones, and I'm actually going to take the opposite route here. And not that I didn't like them, but they maybe just didn't hit as hard for me. And the first one I was thinking about was the Reese's caramel ad, and had just how ridiculous it was. It was just people screaming, and obviously it catches your attention, jumping through tables and sticking their face in bowls of soup and whatever, and just yelling about Reese's. And I didn't even laugh at it for some reason. It was just people yelling the whole time. But again, probably part of what they were going for. They caught your attention. And then the other one that didn't appeal to me as much, and maybe just because I took it maybe a way they weren't expecting, or I don't know, but the Pizza Hut, the only thing I could think about was the old Budweiser commercials with the waza. And I don't know that they were trying to recreate anything like that, but that's all I could think of. And it was just like, oh, this isn't working for me. So that was just another small one that I just thought about in the moment. So, but yeah,
those are great observations. The Pizza What? Yeah, you're right. Maybe they are trying to sort of tie back to that kind of run of different commercial campaigns where they would use something that was so catchy and trying to get people to start using that in their everyday vocabulary, to talk to other people. It'll be interesting to see as a follow-up if they keep running that and if anybody starts to pick up on it. I'm going to play devil's advocate with you on the Reese's ad. And let me first ask the question, do you like Reese's Cups?
I mean, I like them, yes.
Okay, same here. But here's my devil's advocate on that. They start out saying, we're making a big change to Reese's. And that's when everybody goes, oh, no, no, no. And then they come out and they say something to the effect of, we're making it even better. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they go, no, no, no. And then they talk about the caramel. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I thought it was really effective, because they did get your attention. And to me, it was very memorable. I like Reese's Cups. Who doesn't like peanut butter and chocolate, right? Well, many people don't, I'm sure. But I thought that it was really attention getting.
It was definitely that.
I kind of had the same reaction as Seth. It's like, wow, this is really over the top. But what I especially liked about that commercial is that one of the questions that they asked was, are you still making regular Reese's Cups? And the answer was yes. And so just making sure that all the fans who love them the way they are can still get them the way they are. But then you're going to have this upgraded version of them with the caramel on top.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that was very strategic on their part to do that, just so that there's no question in anybody's mind. And it played well to the up and down.
Yeah, there's no new Coke drama going on without that idea.
Right. Andrew, one or two other commercials that really stood out to you?
Yeah. So I have two that I'm thinking of, and one just briefly, it made me laugh. I was the only person in the room laughing. And I was actually messaging Kyle about it this morning, was the DoorDash promo code ad. And it just kind of made me laugh because from a professional standpoint, when we're building like tracking codes and doing things like that, it feels like they go on forever. And so when the ad just kind of popped on, it's, DoorDash, all the ads, 2024 promo code. And it just pauses. And it's probably like 2-3 seconds of dead air. And then it's like, and dash, and it just starts going off on all these things. And then by the time you get to the end of the ad, it's like, okay, it's over. And it's like, and all of this. It just has like a split second screen of another 100 words. And I was just dying laughing, and everybody in the room's just staring at me like, what's this? I was like, it's a work thing. It's like, and so that would make me laugh on a personal level. I don't know how well it resonated with audiences, but on a personal, professional level, that made me laugh.
Yeah, that was a good one too for that very reason. I thought it was very effective, and again, I could see why you could relate to that.
Yeah, it was funny, and other than that one didn't touch on too much. But the one that actually my wife and I talked about a lot, I think maybe it's more of a personal reason, but it was the Doritos commercial for their Dyna chips. Where they had the old ladies, Dina and Mita, so it's like Dynamita, but they had the two ladies, and I think Jenny Ortega was in it. So what was interesting kind of on a personal level, so my wife used to work in marketing as well. Currently, she's works in diversity department at HR for O'Reilly's, and she herself is Hispanic American. And one thing that we were watching the other day was this movie on Hulu called Flaming Hot, and it's kind of a comedy drama recreation of real events that happened a couple of decades back in PepsiCo's Frito-Lay's department, when a Mexican American janitor basically suggested, hey, I know you guys trying to get these other demographics. What we do is we put hot stuff on food that's the way it is, and they were fighting back. And so the movie just really shows that how when somebody believed in him and they pushed it up, like that it did go kind of a cultural phenomenon and how it really blew up. And so having watched that movie and seen how that affects things, my daughter, she eats Takis a lot, which is not made by PepsiCo. It's a brand made out of Mexico, these spicy chips. And so for PepsiCo to now kind of be trying to lean into that market and say, hey, we make these same things too, these Dynamitas. And so kind of from a marketing perspective, it's really interesting because my wife and I were like, they finally caught on. Okay. Like they're leaning into that audience again and saying, hey, we know you guys love Takis. We make American Takis like here. But they did a good job showing that it wasn't just a bunch of Americans saying, here's what we got. They tried to do a cultural kind of comedy commercial. So we kind of felt like it touched on a lot of things where it could resonate with more of a ethnic demographic that might, find more humor in specific aspects of the imagery. But then people who maybe don't understand that part can just laugh at the general comedy, like the old ladies running their carts in a car and chasing them on a zip line. And, so it was overall, we thought just a really effective commercial for the demographic they were really targeting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Doritos usually does a very good job of standing out from the other commercials during the games. A couple others that kind of stood out to me for a variety of different reasons. Really, there were others that I paid note to, but I thought the Michelob Ultra with the Andrew Messi, Dan Marino had a little cameo, but Sand Beach Fun Beer, that all goes together. That always gets my attention. One of the first commercials was the Pizza Hut Heat and Sweet with Tommy DeVito. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it was all these social posts happening, talking about, and what they were doing was trying to parlay off of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift with Tommy DeVito and a celebrity girl, and then all this social chatter that was going on. So I thought that was kind of relevant, I think, to the audience and to what's happening in our time. And then one other one that I just want to mention because it was so out of place was the Kennedy for President. And I don't want to get into a political conversation here, but it was just a commercial that it just stood out because it was so unexpected and so different. And it played on nostalgia. I thought it was very well executed. My wife and I looked at each other after it was over, I think both kind of bewildered about what was going on. But then after thinking about it, I thought he really took a stand in his bid for the presidency, which is, I think, where he's going. So I wanted to throw that one out. And then, the Clydesdales. Got to mention the Clydesdales with pulling the wagon up the hill to the bar on the top of the mountain, and the dog comes out. I mean, it was just a feel-good commercial for Budweiser. So I think all in all, I think there were some winners. Obviously, some others that paid a lot of money to maybe not get their message across as they would have liked to. Any closing comments from anybody about the halftime show or Vegas or the game or the commercials before we end it?
I will jump in, and I know all the haters on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and all that, and people already heard saying that the NFL's scripted and they were going to let her win because it's Taylor. And I got to say, it makes me very unhappy that they think that this could be scripted. But I see so many out there hating on the NFL and Taylor, but she has done great things for, even Kansas City alone, like generating income for tons of businesses. And the NFL is definitely not scripted. So I don't know who's spreading that rumor, but those guys work hard as can be and they don't want to lose. So I just found that interesting. Like, people are still saying that.
Yep. It's surprising. She's been really good for the NFL. Megan, you got a closing remark?
Maddie, which is Lindsay's daughter, who's a big Taylor Swift fan, the Chiefs were down. And I looked at her, I was like, Maddie, we only need 13 seconds, thinking back to the game that they won in 13 seconds. And she said, it's Taylor Swift's favorite. And it's just cute to see that recollection. And I just thought that was fun, bonding over Swift and the Chiefs. I've always been a Chiefs fan. I haven't been a Taylor Swift fan, but honestly, like seeing her and getting to know more about her, myself and my girls are now Taylor Swift fans. So they know her as Travis Kelce's girlfriend, not necessarily Kelce as Taylor's boyfriend. So it's cute to see how it kind of brings those two worlds together.
Yeah, it is. Anybody else? Kyle?
Going off of Lindsay's remark about the scripted NFL thing, that is such a funny concept, how much people latch onto it, but it's just kind of perpetuated by the NFL itself, though, when they've created the ads earlier this year where they had Keegan-Michael Key saying it's scripted and pretending to write it out. So it was just kind of funny that they leaned in that narrative. It might be kind of harmful, but then also manipulated and created a great ad to start the NFL year with it that really caught fire on social. So just kind of throw back to where you started with a advertisement remark that I thought was interesting. And it's kind of interesting that they did decide to lean into it because it is kind of a negative narrative, but now they're kind of owning it. So one of those, how do you approach a challenging marketing or public relations topic? I thought that would be kind of interesting to top off the conversation, to look at it from a start of the season to the end of the season, from a interesting topic that kind of hung around.
Well, I don't know who wrote the script for last night, but they pulled it off expertly. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being on the panel. Y'all did a great job. I always enjoy talking about the Super Bowl commercials and the game, and especially when our Chiefs are in it to win it, as they hope to as a three-peat next year. So everybody, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with some of our Callis associates. Come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America, where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.